There is a certain exhaustion that comes not from work, but from being misunderstood. You try to explain your heart to those who can't even hear your tone. You try to share your vision with eyes that only see their own fears. You try to open your soul to those who came only to measure your flaws. And one day you realize the ones who cannot understand you are not meant to hold your truth. You are not meant to translate your spirit into a language that was never theirs to read. You are not meant to convince people that your kindness is not weakness, that your silence is not guilt, that your distance is not pride. You are meant to live, to rise, to glow, even if they never understand the reason behind your light. There is a certain heaviness that comes from being misunderstood, a weight that doesn't rest on your shoulders, but settles deep in the soul. It's not a sharp pain, it's slow, steady, and quiet. It begins when you realize that no matter how carefully you speak, someone will still twist your intentions into something smaller, colder, less kind than what you meant. You try to explain, to soften, to make them see what lies behind your words, but their ears were never meant to receive you. The more you speak, the more invisible you feel. The more you try to be understood, the more unseen you become. That is the weight of being misunderstood. It crushes not with anger, but with disappointment. At first, you think maybe it's your fault. Maybe you didn't say it right. Maybe you should have smiled more. Maybe if you told the story again, they would hear it this time. So you try. Again and again, you open your heart and let people walk through it, hoping one of them will notice the tenderness you keep trying to show. But all some people see are the walls you built, never realizing that behind them lives a heart that still believes in connection. And that is the tragedy of explaining yourself. You end up performing your truth instead of living it. Being misunderstood can make you question your own reality. You start to wonder if your kindness really came across as weakness, if your silence was taken as arrogance, if your honesty sounded like pride. You begin to shrink yourself to fit into smaller expectations, just so the world won't mistake your light for fire. You dim your voice, soften your tone, swallow your truth, until one day you wake up and realize that you've been carrying the opinions of others like stones in your pockets. And all the while, you thought explaining yourself would lighten the load. But every explanation became another stone, because people who are determined not to understand you will always find a reason not to. You see, there are souls who listen with empathy, and then there are souls who listen with ego. The first kind listens to understand. The second kind listens to reply. And when you speak your truth to the second kind, it doesn't matter how gently you say it, they will only hear what confirms their own fears. They will paint your calm as coldness, your strength as stubbornness, your self-respect as distance. And when they do, you may be tempted to defend yourself. But defense is a form of surrender. It tells the world that their misunderstanding has power over your peace. There's a quiet power in letting people believe what they want. It's not indifference, it's maturity. It's realizing that you are no longer responsible for convincing the blind to see your colors. You have walked too far, learned too much, to keep justifying the way your soul was shaped. You don't owe your story to those who will only skim the surface. Let them have their version of you. You keep living the truth that only you can understand. The right ones will see you without needing an explanation. They always do. But it takes time to reach that peace, because before peace comes, there's pain. The pain of being misjudged, the pain of hearing your name spoken in rooms where your truth never entered, the pain of being too deep for shallow conversations, too soft for hard hearts, too honest for a world that prefers masks. You will want to explain. You will want to shout your truth into the silence. But you must resist the urge. Every time you explain yourself to someone determined not to understand you, you reopen a wound that was trying to heal. Some people misunderstand you not because you are unclear, but because understanding you would require them to grow. And growth is something not everyone is ready for. The weight of being misunderstood teaches you something sacred. It teaches you who deserves your words. It teaches you the beauty of selective sharing. You begin to realize that not every emotion needs an audience, not every thought needs translation, not every truth needs defense. The ones who are meant for you will never demand you to explain your softness, your silence, your storms. They will know that behind your calm is courage, behind your distance is protection, behind your quietness is depth. To be understood by such souls is rare, but once it happens, you will never waste your breath again. When you stop explaining yourself, a strange thing happens. You start hearing yourself more clearly. You realize that your need to be understood was really a need to be validated. You wanted someone to tell you that your feelings were real, your choices were right, your path was worth it. But once you stop chasing that validation, you give it to yourself. You learn that your worth doesn't depend on how clearly others see you. It depends on how gently you see yourself. Understanding begins at home, inside your own heart. When you understand you, the misunderstanding of others becomes background noise. Some people will call you cold when you stop explaining. Let them. They are mistaking your boundaries for bitterness. You are not cold. You are just done bleeding explanations for people who refuse to stop cutting you with assumptions. You are not distant. You are just protecting your peace. You are not prideful. You are just aware of your worth. The world has a strange way of labeling peace as arrogance when it can no longer control you. You must understand this. The need to be understood is a beautiful thing, but it cannot be your burden. There will always be those who see your confidence as threat, your truth as offense, your freedom as rebellion. Let them misunderstand. Let them write stories about you in their minds. You are not their version of you. You are not their opinion. You are not the misunderstanding they built in their head. You are the truth that lives quietly beyond their reach. The ones who misunderstand you today might one day remember you differently. Time has a way of revealing hearts and humbling minds. But by then, you won't need their understanding. You'll be too busy living the peace you once begged for. The day you stop explaining yourself is the day you reclaim your energy. You stop arguing with shadows and start walking in light. You stop proving your intentions and start living in integrity. You stop shrinking your truth and start expanding your soul. So, if you ever feel the heaviness of being misunderstood, remind yourself, it's not a reflection of your clarity, it's a reflection of their capacity. Some people simply cannot meet you at the depth you live in, and that's okay. Don't explain your ocean to those who have only ever known the shore. Let your depth remain sacred. Let your silence be your explanation. And let your peace speak the loudest of all. Not everyone will see you. Not everyone can. There are eyes that look but do not perceive, ears that hear but never listen, and hearts that beat but never truly feel. You will spend a long part of your life trying to be seen, trying to be known, trying to be understood by people who simply do not have the capacity to do so. It is not because you are invisible, unworthy, or too complicated. It is because their sight was never trained to recognize souls like yours. You see, people can only meet you at the level of their awareness. A shallow person cannot see your depth. They will call it drama. A fearful person cannot see your courage. They will call it recklessness. A closed heart cannot understand your love. They will call it weakness. Everyone filters you through the lens of their own limitations, and then they hand you back a reflection that isn't you at all. And if you're not careful, you'll start believing that reflection. You'll start dimming your own light just to fit the comfort of someone's dim vision. But not everyone deserves that adjustment. Not everyone is supposed to understand the way you move, speak, love, or dream. Some people are not meant to walk beside you. They are meant to watch from afar, to learn by your example, even if they never understand the reason behind your steps. Trying to make everyone see you is like trying to describe color to someone who has only ever known black and white. You can pour your heart into words, but if their eyes were never open to the spectrum of emotion you carry, they'll never see the beauty you're trying to show. There are people who see only with judgment. They cannot see the intention behind your silence, the kindness behind your boundaries, or the strength behind your tears. They are trapped in a world where appearances matter more than authenticity. If you cry, they call you weak. If you stay silent, they call you cold. If you walk away, they call you arrogant. Their eyes can only interpret you through their fears, not your truth. And sometimes the ones who can't see you are the ones closest to you: family, friends, lovers. People you've given pieces of your heart to. You expect them to know you, to understand the quiet language of your soul, but they don't. You start to realize that proximity does not equal perception. Just because someone has stood next to you doesn't mean they've truly seen you. They may know your habits, but not your heart. They may know your story, but not your spirit. It hurts when the ones you love can't see you. It makes you question your voice, your value, your very existence. You may start performing versions of yourself that are easier to love, easier to digest, easier to accept. You smile when you want to cry, agree when you want to resist, stay when you want to leave, all in the name of being seen. But even then, you realize something painful. They still don't see you. They see only what you've made yourself into for their comfort. And that's when you begin to understand that maybe the problem isn't that they can't see you, it's that you keep standing in places where you are unseen. When someone lacks the capacity to see you, their misunderstanding of you will always sound like criticism. They'll tell you you've changed when all you did was grow. They'll call you selfish for setting boundaries when all you did was finally honor yourself. They'll accuse you of being distant when all you did was stop overextending. You must learn to hear these words without internalizing them. What they're really saying is, I cannot meet you at this level. I cannot see from where you stand. And that's okay. You were never meant to shrink back to meet them. You were meant to rise. Every soul has its own level of seeing. Some eyes only recognize what's easy to label, what's familiar, what fits neatly into their comfort zones. They'll call your complexity confusion because they have not yet met themselves deeply enough to understand depth in others. They'll call your independence rebellion because they still equate obedience with love. They'll call your peace distance because they have not yet made peace with their own chaos. Their sight is limited not by malice, but by their own unhealed wounds. And you cannot heal their vision by hurting your own. There is freedom in understanding this truth. You are not responsible for teaching someone how to see you. You can speak clearly, love purely, show up consistently, and still they might not get it. And that's no reflection of your worth. It's simply a matter of capacity. Some hearts are not ready for the kind of truth your spirit carries. Some eyes are not trained to recognize authenticity when they see it. You could hand them light, and they'd still find a way to call it shadow, because brightness terrifies those who've learned to live in the dark. The more you evolve, the fewer people will recognize you. And that is not rejection, it is proof that you are growing. Growth naturally changes your visibility. You stop being familiar to those who only knew you by your wounds. You stop fitting into spaces that were built for smaller versions of you. Some people will say, "You've changed," and they'll mean it as an accusation. But what they don't understand is that you were meant to change. You were never created to stay trapped in someone else's understanding of you. You cannot force someone to see your worth when their eyes are still clouded by their insecurities. You cannot make someone appreciate your depth when they fear drowning in their own shallowness. You cannot explain your vision to people who are still learning to open theirs. Stop trying to make sense to those who prefer confusion. Stop trying to be visible to those who close their eyes the moment you start shining. When you meet people who truly see you, you will know. There will be no need to translate your emotions or justify your silence. They will recognize your pauses as peace, not indifference. They will hear your laughter and know the story behind it. They will read between your words, sense your storms, and still stand beside you. They will not ask you to shrink to be loved. They will not fear your depth. They will swim in it. To be seen by such souls is a sacred thing, a homecoming. But until then, you must learn to live unseen. You must learn to thrive without an audience, to believe in your light even when no one reflects it back to you. You must become so rooted in your own knowing that someone else's blindness cannot shake your clarity. The world will not always clap for your healing, but you must keep healing anyway. The world will not always recognize your worth, but you must keep walking in it. Understand this. People cannot see beyond the level of their consciousness. A child cannot see the complexity of a storm. They only see rain. Likewise, some people will only ever see your actions. They will never see your intention. You may be building peace, and they'll call it isolation. You may be protecting your heart, and they'll call it selfishness. You may be choosing yourself, and they'll call it pride. Let them. Their words reveal their vision, not your value. And maybe in the end, being unseen by some is a kind of divine protection, because not everyone who sees you will celebrate you. Some will envy you, misunderstand you, or try to pull you back into their limited sight. Sometimes being invisible to the wrong people is the only way to remain visible to yourself. Sometimes not being understood is what keeps you aligned with your truth. So stop begging to be seen by those who are not ready. Stop wasting your energy explaining your light to those committed to their darkness. Let their limited vision stay theirs. You were never made to be seen by everyone. You were made to be true to yourself. Those who are meant for you will find you. Even in your silence, even in your stillness, even in your light, they will see you not with their eyes, but with their soul. And that kind of sight is worth waiting for. Your energy is sacred. It is not just what fuels your body, it is what carries your spirit, your peace, and your power. It's what keeps you standing when the world tries to bend you. It's what holds your softness even after you've been misunderstood, and what helps you rebuild when you've been broken. Yet too often we spend this precious energy trying to explain ourselves to people who have already decided what they want to believe. We pour out our strength into conversations that go nowhere, trying to make others see our heart, trying to prove that our intentions were pure, that our choices made sense, that our silence wasn't rejection. But every word spent defending your truth to those who refuse to understand it is a withdrawal from your soul's account. And one day, you wake up empty, not because you gave too little, but because you kept giving to what did not receive you. Explaining yourself seems innocent. It feels like communication, like trying to build peace. But the truth is, sometimes it's not about peace. It's about fear, fear of being judged, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being alone. So you over-explain, hoping that if people see your intentions clearly, they'll accept you, respect you, or at least stop doubting you. But what you'll find is this: people who want to misunderstand you will do it no matter how carefully you explain. It's not that they didn't hear you, it's that their mind wasn't open to you. And every attempt to clarify yourself only feeds their misunderstanding, because their interpretation of you was never about you, it was always about them. Energy is currency. Every conversation, every reaction, every explanation is a transaction. You invest it, hoping for understanding in return, but not everyone gives back what you put in. Some people only take. They drain your clarity with their confusion. They twist your words until even you start doubting what you meant. They listen not to understand, but to respond, to defend, to argue, to assert their own version of truth. And by the time you walk away, your spirit feels tired, your peace feels small, and you wonder why. It's because you spent something sacred where there was no reverence. You gave your energy to misunderstanding, and misunderstanding is a bottomless pit. It never fills, it only consumes. You must learn to recognize where your energy flows and where it leaks. There are people who feed your soul, and there are people who feed on it. The difference is simple. When you leave someone's presence and feel lighter, you were understood. When you leave and feel heavy, you were defending yourself. The world will constantly invite you to defend, explain, and justify your choices, your silence, your peace. But you must decline those invitations with grace. Your energy was not created to chase understanding. It was created to build truth, to nurture growth, to love deeply, and to rest freely. When you start protecting your energy, people will call you distant. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've become quiet. But what they don't understand is that you're not quiet because you have nothing to say. You're quiet because you've realized that your voice is precious. You no longer pour it into empty cups. You no longer hand your peace to those who toss it aside. You've learned that not every misunderstanding deserves your correction, and not every critic deserves your attention. There's a certain power in silence, a strength in letting your peace speak for you. When someone misjudges you, let them. When someone assumes your intentions, let them. When someone builds a false version of you in their mind, let them live with their illusion. Your job is not to fix their perception, it's to protect your energy from being drained by it. The truth has a way of revealing itself in time, and time has a way of humbling every misunderstanding. You do not need to waste your sacred fire trying to light up minds that are closed. There's something holy about being selective with your energy. When you choose where to place your focus, you reclaim your power. You stop scattering yourself into explanations and start gathering yourself into purpose. You begin to understand that peace is not found in being understood. It's found in understanding when to stay silent. There's a calm that comes when you stop justifying your heart to those who cannot hear its rhythm. You become centered, grounded, whole. Your energy was meant for creation, not correction. It was meant to build dreams, to nurture love, to grow strength, not to chase after the approval of those who misunderstand you. Every time you try to convince someone of your worth, you give them the power to define it. Every time you argue with someone who doesn't value your truth, you hand them your calm. But when you step back, when you protect your energy, when you say, I don't need to explain myself to you, something beautiful happens. You begin to glow differently. Your silence becomes magnetic. Your peace becomes power. People who live in confusion will always demand explanations from those who live in clarity. They will want to drag you into their storms so they don't feel alone in their chaos. But you must stand firm in your calm. Protecting your energy means learning to say, I wish you well, and walking away. It means refusing to give your voice to arguments that lead nowhere. It means understanding that peace is not passive, it's protective. It's an active choice to guard what makes you whole. Every word you speak carries vibration. Every explanation carries emotion. When you keep explaining yourself, you keep giving fragments of your spirit to spaces that cannot hold them. And over time, that fragments you. You begin to feel unseen, unheard, unappreciated, not because your value disappeared, but because you handed it away piece by piece, hoping someone would finally say, "I understand." The moment you realize that your peace is worth more than their understanding, you start living differently. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop convincing. You start conserving. Your energy is your signature. It's the quiet light that surrounds you, the calm that follows you, the warmth that fills a room when you walk in. Protect it. Don't waste it on debates with people committed to misunderstanding you. Don't spend it explaining your softness to the unkind or your dreams to the unbelieving. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to live in alignment with what's true for you. It takes strength to walk away from misunderstanding, to let go of the need to be seen clearly by others. But that strength is the key to freedom. When you no longer need to explain, you become untouchable. No one can steal your calm or confuse your purpose. You simply move with grace, knowing that the right people will never need an explanation to feel your truth. They'll just know. So preserve your energy. Speak only where your words are received. Give only where your presence is honored, and explain yourself only to those who have earned the right to understand you. Let your peace be your answer. Let your silence be your protection, and let your energy remain sacred, untouched, undiluted, and powerful enough to move mountains without ever needing to explain how. Understanding is not something you are entitled to receive from others. It is not something people owe you simply because you exist or because your intentions are pure. Understanding is a gift, a grace that comes when two souls are willing to meet each other with open hearts and patient minds. But not everyone is capable of that kind of meeting. Not everyone has walked through enough of their own pain to recognize yours. Not everyone has lived with enough honesty to understand your truth. So when people misunderstand you, it isn't always cruelty. It is often limitation. They cannot meet you where they have never been. The world often teaches us that if we explain ourselves clearly enough, people will understand us. But life shows us something different. You can pour your heart out in the most honest words, speak your truth gently, even expose your wounds for others to see, and still they will misinterpret you. They will twist your meaning to fit their story. They will judge you through the lens of their own fear. It's not because your message was unclear, it's because their vision was. And no amount of explaining can fix a mind that isn't ready to understand. Understanding must be earned, not demanded. It is earned through empathy, through listening without judgment, through the willingness to put aside ego and truly see another human being. When someone understands you, it's not because you convince them, it's because they open themselves to see you beyond words. That kind of understanding is sacred, and it cannot be rushed or forced. You can't demand it from people who are still ruled by pride. You can't beg it from those who are still afraid of vulnerability. You can only offer your truth and let time reveal who deserves it. It's a painful lesson to accept that not everyone will understand you, even when you mean well. Some people will misunderstand your silence as anger, your distance as rejection, your strength as pride. You can explain and explain until your voice grows tired, but their perception won't change because it's not built on your reality. It's built on their assumptions. and assumptions are thick walls. They block understanding until someone is humble enough to tear them down. You must learn to release the burden of trying to make people get you. Their inability to understand you is not your failure. It's not a flaw in your character. It's not proof that you are difficult or complicated. It simply means that they haven't reached the depth required to meet you there. Understanding is earned through growth, through self-awareness, through reflection. People who haven't taken the time to understand themselves will never have the patience to understand you. When you realize this, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing understanding from those who were never listening. You stop begging people to see your good intentions. You stop explaining your softness to the unkind and your strength to the insecure. You begin to accept that your truth does not need to be approved to be valid. You start conserving your peace and giving your explanations only to those who have proven worthy of them. There's a quiet freedom in that acceptance. You begin to see how much energy you wasted trying to earn from others what they had not earned from you. You stop performing emotional labor for people who have no desire to meet you halfway. You stop pouring understanding into empty vessels. You start protecting your depth instead of offering it to those who treat it like a challenge. You learn to stand in your truth without apology, knowing that the right ones will see you, maybe not immediately, but eventually. The truth is, understanding requires maturity. It requires someone to step outside themselves and look through your eyes. That takes humility, and humility is rare. Most people are too busy defending their perspective to ever truly see another's. That's why arguments repeat, relationships fade, and hearts grow distant. One person keeps talking while the other keeps hearing only what fits their comfort. And in that disconnect, peace disappears. You cannot demand understanding from someone who values being right more than being kind. You cannot earn empathy from those who use your vulnerability as proof of weakness. You cannot explain your truth to someone who benefits from misunderstanding it. So stop trying. The moment you realize that understanding is not owed, you begin to reclaim your emotional balance. You stop resenting those who don't see you because you understand they can't, not yet, and maybe not ever. The ones who truly understand you will never need a long explanation. They will feel you before you finish speaking. They will sense what you mean, even in silence. They will recognize your pain in a single pause, your joy in a small smile, your exhaustion in the quiet between words. Those people earn your truth because they have done the work to understand themselves first. They know what it means to feel unseen, unheard, and misunderstood, and that's why they never want to make you feel the same. Understanding is earned through experience, not proximity. Someone may have known you for years and still not see you. Another may meet you once and understand you immediately. That's not magic, it's alignment. Souls that move at similar frequencies recognize each other without effort. That's why explaining yourself to the wrong people feels like talking to walls. But with the right ones, even your silence makes sense. It's not arrogance to stop explaining yourself, it's wisdom. It's not pride to walk away from those who won't understand, it's self-preservation. When you know your heart, you no longer need to make everyone else agree with it. You no longer seek validation through being understood. You begin to trust that those who are meant to understand will, and those who are not will fade from your life naturally. That's the quiet justice of truth. It finds its audience without you forcing it. Understanding is not a birthright, it's a reward of awareness. It comes to those who listen more than they speak, who observe before they judge, who love without conditions. You cannot teach someone empathy. They must awaken it within themselves. So instead of exhausting yourself trying to be understood, focus on becoming understanding. Learn to give the grace you wish others had given you. Learn to see without assumption, to listen without interruption, to love without needing to fix. In doing so, you become the kind of person who earns understanding wherever you go. And perhaps that's the lesson life keeps teaching us. Stop chasing what must be earned and instead embody it. When you live with understanding, you attract it. When you move with peace, you find others who speak that same language. And when you no longer depend on others to see you, you finally see yourself clearly. That is when the world begins to understand you, not because you demanded it, but because you became the living example of what understanding truly means. Silence is not weakness. It is not retreat, nor is it surrender. Silence is a language that only the strong can speak fluently. It is the voice of self-control, of restraint, of deep understanding that words are not always worthy of the truth they try to carry. There is a kind of power that lives in stillness, in the pause between reaction and response. Those who have been through enough pain, enough misunderstanding, enough noise, they learn that silence is not the absence of power, it is the refinement of it. There was a time when you used to explain everything. When someone hurt you, you explained your hurt. When someone doubted you, you explained your worth. When someone misunderstood you, you explained your heart. But the older you get, the quieter you become, not because you stopped caring, but because you learned that peace cannot be achieved through endless justification. Some truths are too sacred for debate. Some feelings are too fragile for words. Some situations don't need your voice. They need your stillness. Silence teaches you that not every storm deserves your thunder. When you choose not to respond, you are not losing the argument. You are rising above the noise. Because silence is not passive. It is protective. It guards your energy, your dignity, and your clarity. It's easy to speak out of anger, to explain out of frustration, to fight to be heard. But the real challenge, the real strength, lies in holding your peace when everything inside you wants to shout. That is the kind of power that unsettles those who thrive on chaos. They cannot provoke what refuses to react. People often mistake silence for weakness because they have not yet learned the art of restraint. They equate loudness with strength, forgetting that even the ocean's calm surface hides unimaginable depth. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful one. Power doesn't need to announce itself. It reveals itself in the way you stay grounded while others lose balance. It shows in the way you hold your peace while others chase validation. When you stop responding to every misunderstanding, you take your power back. You no longer play the game of explanation and defense. You understand that silence can say everything words cannot. It says, I know who I am. It says, your opinion cannot shake my truth. It says, my peace is not up for discussion. Silence is not avoidance. It is awareness. It means you have reached a place within yourself where your calm matters more than their chaos. There will be moments when your silence will be misunderstood. People will call you cold, distant, or proud. But do not let those words move you. They are merely projections from those who cannot understand peace without noise. Let them talk. Let them guess. Your silence is not for them. It's for you. It's the space where you meet yourself again after the world has tried to pull you apart. It's the stillness where you hear your own voice louder than the crowd's opinions. Silence also exposes truth. When you stop explaining, people reveal themselves. Watch how they handle your quiet. Some will become uncomfortable because they depended on your reactions to feed their ego. Some will fill the silence with assumptions, exposing their own insecurities. And some will finally start listening, realizing that your silence was not absence. It was a boundary. It was a sign that the conversation had crossed into a place where peace was more valuable than being right. Powerful silence is not about pretending to be unaffected. It's about being deeply aware and choosing not to respond from emotion. It's knowing that reacting might give temporary relief, but it won't bring long-term peace. It's realizing that you don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You can decline conflict without explaining your absence. You can walk away without turning it into a performance. True peace is quiet. It doesn't need witnesses to validate it. Sometimes silence is the only answer that truth needs. When you've been falsely accused, silence says, "I trust time to reveal what words cannot." When you've been hurt, silence says, "I choose healing over retaliation." When you've been disrespected, silence says, "I know my worth. I won't lower it to make a point." This kind of silence is not empty. It is full. It holds wisdom, strength, and self-respect. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering response. In silence, you reconnect with yourself. You begin to understand that the world outside is always noisy, but peace begins within. You learn to listen to your intuition, that quiet voice inside that was drowned by constant explanation. You start to feel the rhythm of your thoughts, the pulse of your own truth. Silence gives space for clarity to rise. It shows you what matters and what never did. It teaches you that not every battle deserves a soldier. Some only need your stillness. There's a certain mystery to silence that confuses those who seek control. People who cannot control you through argument will try to control you through interpretation. They'll create stories about why you're quiet. Let them. Your silence doesn't owe them an explanation. It speaks a language they haven't yet learned, the language of peace. Those who live in noise will call it arrogance, but those who live in awareness will call it mastery. When you embrace silence, you begin to see how powerful it truly is. It protects relationships by avoiding words that cannot be taken back. It ends conflicts before they begin. It keeps your spirit aligned with your purpose. Silence is not emptiness, it is space. And in that space, healing happens, growth happens, wisdom blooms. The world might not notice it, but your soul does. It breathes easier in quiet. There will be times when your silence will echo louder than any words you could have spoken. Someone will misunderstand you, and instead of defending yourself, you'll simply smile and let it pass. Someone will test your patience, and instead of reacting, you'll choose calm. Someone will question your worth, and instead of arguing, you'll walk away with your peace intact. That is power. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't chase, doesn't crumble. It just stands firm, anchored in its truth. Silence is the mark of a soul that has been through chaos and learned not to mirror it. It's the sign of someone who has fought battles within and no longer needs to prove victory outside. The ones who speak peace fluently are the ones who earned it through storms. They know that silence doesn't mean defeat. It means mastery. It means you've risen above the need to be right and chosen the higher need to be whole. So when the world tries to drag you into noise, remember, your silence is not weakness. It is strength wrapped in grace. It is a declaration that you will not let anyone's chaos disturb your calm. It is proof that your peace is no longer negotiable. Your silence says everything that needs to be said and more. It says you've learned the rarest language of all, the language of power. There is a rare kind of freedom that comes when you stop explaining yourself. It's the kind of liberation that can't be found in approval, applause, or understanding. It's quiet, deep, and steady. It is the moment you realize you don't need to make anyone see you clearly to know that you exist fully. The need to explain is born from the desire to be accepted. But once you've walked through enough rejection, once you've been misunderstood enough times, you learn that being understood by everyone is not peace, it's a prison. True freedom begins the moment you stop defending your truth and start simply living it. For so long, many of us have tried to make people understand our hearts. We explained our intentions when we were accused. We explained our silence when we needed space. We explained our love when it wasn't returned. And yet, no matter how carefully we spoke, some people could not see us, not because our words were unclear, but because their hearts were closed. You can pour yourself into explanation and still not be understood, because understanding requires openness, not clarity. When people are not ready to receive your truth, even your honesty sounds like arrogance to them. That is why there's such power in choosing not to explain, because when you no longer feel the need to justify your decisions, your choices, or your peace, you reclaim your energy from the endless circle of convincing. You begin to move differently, lighter, freer, unbothered. You realize that your life does not require a translator. You are not living to be decoded or approved. You are living to be whole. And wholeness doesn't need validation. It only needs honesty with itself. Not explaining doesn't mean you're being secretive or defensive. It means you are protecting your peace. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to the reasoning behind your steps. Some people only want your explanations so they can twist them into judgment. Some only listen to argue, not to understand. So you learn to stay quiet, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You learn that silence can be the most honest response to those who listen only to reply. Freedom grows in the space where justification used to live. You no longer carry the weight of proving your kindness, your intentions, your worth. You understand that people will see what they want to see. Some will misunderstand your peace as pride, your silence as distance, your focus as indifference, and you let them, because you finally understand that you are not responsible for their perception. You are responsible only for your truth. And that truth doesn't need to be dressed in explanation. It just needs to be lived out, day by day, quietly and authentically. There is also a deep spiritual release in not explaining. It means you have surrendered the need to control how others see you. You've stopped chasing clarity from people who thrive on confusion. You've stopped offering emotional essays to people who never read your heart. You've learned to let misunderstanding stand where it stands, because your peace is worth more than being right in their eyes. This kind of surrender is not defeat, it's divine alignment. It means you've accepted that truth always reveals itself in time, and you no longer need to rush its unveiling with words. When you stop explaining, you start trusting that the right people will understand you without paragraphs, without persuasion. The right souls don't need proof. They feel your energy. They see your heart even in your silence. And those who constantly demand explanations are not seeking connection. They're seeking control. Once you see that, you begin to guard your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You begin to understand that your life is not a courtroom where every decision must be defended. It's a journey, and only you were given the map. People who walk in freedom don't explain their peace. They don't explain why they walked away, why they said no, or why they chose distance. Their silence is their boundary. Their calm is their answer. Their peace is their statement. This doesn't mean they've become cold or distant. It means they've become centered. When you stop explaining, you stop performing for an audience that was never meant to understand your story in the first place. The world will always have opinions. Someone will always believe you should have stayed, should have fought, should have spoken, should have done more. But they don't know what it cost you to stay, to speak, to explain. They don't know the weight you carried trying to be understood. Freedom means you no longer let the outside noise dictate your inner peace. It means you've reached the place where being misunderstood is no longer a wound. It's just part of walking your truth. You begin to see that explaining yourself often stems from fear, the fear of being judged, of being seen as wrong, of being alone. But when you've walked through enough solitude, you discover that loneliness is not the worst thing. Losing yourself for approval is. You'd rather be misunderstood and free than understood and trapped. You'd rather walk quietly in peace than loudly in confusion. You begin to find comfort in your own silence, and it no longer feels like isolation. It feels like home. There is also strength in mystery. When you stop explaining, you become harder to manipulate. You no longer feed people the information they could use against you. Your energy becomes less predictable, more sovereign. People cannot control what they cannot read. And in that unreadability, you find your strength. You learn that it's okay to let people wonder, to let them create their own versions of you, because the truth does not need their permission to exist. Sometimes the most powerful sentence you'll ever speak is the one you never say. The most powerful answer is your calm. The most powerful move is your silence. You don't owe anyone a window into your healing, your boundaries, your choices. You can love deeply and still choose silence. You can care fully and still choose distance. You can be kind and still choose not to explain. Freedom is not loud, it's serene. It's the peace that comes from knowing that your truth is intact, even when it's misunderstood. There's a quiet dignity in walking through life without defending your every step. It's a declaration of trust in yourself. It's saying, I no longer need you to see me for me to exist. It's understanding that your energy speaks louder than your explanations ever could. When you reach that place, life becomes lighter. You stop chasing closure, clarity, and confirmation from others. You become your own witness, your own validation. And that, more than any approval, is the purest form of freedom. Because at the end of the day, your peace is not something you explain. It's something you protect. Your growth is not something you announce. It's something you embody. Your boundaries are not up for negotiation. They are sacred spaces where your soul breathes. And the ones meant for you will never require you to explain your peace. They will feel it, honor it, and walk beside it. There is a rare comfort that comes from being understood, not by everyone, but by the right souls. The kind of understanding that doesn't demand explanation, that doesn't twist your silence into distance, that doesn't make your depth feel like a burden. When the right soul sees you, they don't need the whole story to recognize your truth. They don't ask you to shrink your feelings to fit their comfort. They meet you where you are, not where it's easy. That kind of understanding is rare, but it is real. And it is worth waiting for. So many people spend their lives trying to be understood by those who were never meant to hold their truth. They explain, they justify, they soften themselves, hoping to be accepted. But the more you try to make someone see you, the more invisible you become. Because understanding isn't something you can force. It's something that flows naturally between souls aligned in honesty. You cannot teach someone to value your heart if they are committed to misunderstanding your light. Being understood by the right souls begins with understanding yourself. It begins when you stop chasing clarity from people who only hear what confirms their comfort. It begins when you stop explaining your worth to those who measure love by convenience. The right souls don't make you beg to be heard. They listen without interruption. They don't make you prove your kindness. They feel it in your presence. They don't make you question your value. They remind you of it when you forget. The wrong souls will always make you doubt your truth. They will take your depth and call it drama, your boundaries and call them distance, your silence and call it pride. They will twist your growth into rebellion and your healing into coldness. And if you are not careful, you will start to explain yourself into exhaustion. But the right ones, they won't need convincing. They will see through your pauses, understand the weight behind your quiet, and recognize the courage it took to stay soft in a world that keeps trying to harden you. When you find those people, something inside you exhales. You no longer feel the need to perform, to filter, to translate. You can simply be. You can speak without guarding every word, laugh without wondering if you're too much, cry without apologizing. You can exist without the fear of being misread. That's what it feels like to be seen by the right soul. It's not loud, it's not dramatic. It's peace disguised as understanding. But to be understood by the right souls, you must first be willing to let go of the wrong ones. You must release your need to be accepted by everyone. You must stop trying to fix those who only listen to reply. You must walk away from those who demand your silence when your truth becomes inconvenient. It's not arrogance to protect your peace, it's maturity. It's the realization that not everyone deserves access to your spirit. Some people are meant to be chapters, not homes. There's a sacredness in waiting for the right connections. When you stop chasing validation, you begin to attract authenticity. The right souls recognize you not because you try to impress them, but because your energy mirrors their own. They don't flinch at your honesty or shrink from your depth. They have walked through their own storms, so they recognize the rain in your voice. They have sat with their own shadows, so they understand the light you carry. And when the right souls find you, they don't demand perfection. They hold space for your becoming. They understand that you can be healing and whole, strong and tender, quiet and full of fire, all at once. They don't judge your contradictions, they honor them. They understand that growth is not linear, that silence doesn't mean distance, that vulnerability doesn't mean weakness. They meet you in the middle with grace, with patience, with presence. The right souls are not impressed by how loud you can speak your truth. They are moved by how you live it. They don't need grand declarations to believe in your heart. They feel your sincerity in small moments, in the way you listen, the way you show up, the way you keep trying even when the world has been unkind. They don't just see your strength, they understand the story behind it. They understand that your calm is not indifference, it's survival. That your boundaries are not walls, they are self-respect. That your quiet is not emptiness, it's healing. And in their presence, you grow. Not because they fix you, but because they remind you that you are already whole. The right souls don't complete you, they expand you. They reflect back to you the parts of yourself you've forgotten to love. They remind you that your sensitivity is not a flaw, that your intuition is not overthinking, that your gentleness is not weakness. They speak life into you simply by understanding you. To be understood by the right souls, you must also learn to understand yourself enough to know what you deserve. You must stop watering relationships that wilt your spirit. You must stop explaining your heart to those who cannot hold it. You must start choosing peace over validation, because the right people will never make you fight for their understanding. You will not have to convince them that your intentions are pure. They will see it, they will feel it, and they will honor it. There's something holy about being seen without words. When someone looks into your eyes and knows what you're not saying, when they sense your exhaustion before you speak it, when they hear your silence and treat it with gentleness instead of impatience, that kind of understanding is rare. And when you find it, don't take it for granted. Because it's not about how many people hear you, it's about the few who truly understand. You'll reach a point in life where you no longer crave being understood by everyone. You'll stop bending yourself into shapes to fit into other people's comfort. You'll realize that your peace depends not on how many people see you, but on who sees you with love. You'll learn that you are not for everyone, and that's a beautiful thing, because the few who truly see you see all of you. The right souls don't just witness your light, they honor your shadows. And when you have even one soul who understands you, who listens without judgment, who stands beside you in silence and in chaos, that is more valuable than 1,000 who only hear your words but never your heart. So, don't waste your voice explaining yourself to those who cannot understand your language. Keep speaking your truth softly, consistently, beautifully. The ones meant to understand will feel it, not through your explanations, but through your essence. Because in the end, peace is not found in being seen by everyone. It's found in being understood by the right ones. Those who don't just hear what you say, but understand what you mean. Those who don't just notice your presence, but respect your depth. Those who see your truth and choose to stay. That is where true connection lives, in the quiet recognition between two souls that have nothing to prove, only everything to understand. So the next time someone demands to understand you, remember this. Your truth is not a textbook, and your soul is not up for examination. You do not need to explain your purpose to those who cannot hear your calling. Let them wonder, let them talk, let them misunderstand. You, my dear, just keep becoming in silence, in strength, and in truth.